Hi, I'm Becky Pontz. I'm a local artist here in town on the west side, and I'm working on my water circle today for our Manitou art project of social distancing and creativity. I would like to show you how I started, which is with these blue wires that I found and upcycled. You might want to use string or something along those lines. I have used quite a bit of duct tape, as you can see. And then I started with actually some sticks I found on the ground, and I made a heart and used a lot of duct tape to secure it. And then I began running one line this way and one from the bottom so that it was in place. And then I wove the rest of them, just using a lot of tape and wiring them to it. But what I'd like to show you today is how I'm going to finish it, which is making it look kind of like a spider web. So I have the same kind of wire, but it's white. So you can see I have these loops that I started. So I'm going to show you what I did because I'm using wire. If it was string, it'd be different. But I'm going to bend it and create a few at a time so I know where I'm headed with it. And then I'll attach it with duct tape and show you how I lash it, which will come in handy with whatever material you use if you're using tape to lash it. So I'm just bending these so I know where they're going to be until I get to the end. And this helps me realize how much material I have left so I don't get started and finish with a loose end that I can't figure out what to do with. Oh, that's going to be perfect at the end there. Okay, so I'll go back and I'll show you how I'm going to lash this on. I love duct tape. Usually you don't need more than one roll for the whole project. I also love to conserve. So I'm going to take my duct tape no matter what I'm using it for and almost always tear it into smaller strips. One, it's easier to lash with smaller strips, and two, you're conserving tape and you can have a lot more out of your project or to use for your project. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this one down. I'm going to start by going through that loop I made, or that little crease. And then attach it. This one is as tight as I can get, but this is just to hold it, and then I'll attach it for real with some other pieces of tape. So I'm going to come around and attach it to all of these. And this time I'm going to go sideways and tape. A lot of times duct tape sticks to itself better than other stuff. So I made my piece long enough so when I wrapped it around, it stuck to itself as well as the wire. And then this project, I really want it to look like a spider web. So I'm going to take a little piece of tape and tape these wires together. Again, just long enough so the tape can touch itself. And if you miss, just add another piece. All right. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Take a piece. I'm going to put it in that little crease right there. Find a nice spot to attach it. Wrap it around my frame. And then to make sure it's really nice and tight, I'm going to I want some longer pieces. Again, and if you have kids or ones that love to tear tape, this is a great job for somebody to sit and work with you and have somebody tearing tape while you do the project as well. And some people just love tearing tape, so you probably will find a volunteer that wouldn't mind doing that. So I'm going to do what's called lashing, which is where you do a line one way and then the other way. So we're going to make an X. And this is really going to secure this down. So I'm going to wrap it all the way around. And then I'm going to come from a different angle. So maybe this one instead. And this is just securing it all in place. If you don't have tape, you can use string or wire, but I always recommend that X shape because it really provides stability. We're going to go ahead and tape these together. I'm going to use more of a horizontal piece, so more of a chunk to wrap around all of them. So as you can see, you can do a lot with duct tape and things you find around the house. All right, we're going to go to the next one. So the same thing, I'll take one of my longer, thinner pieces and go all the way through. Whoops. It's getting there. I'm going to go ahead and lash this with a couple of pieces so that I know it's nice and secure. All the way around. And again, I'm usually trying to make sure the tape is sticking back to itself. Oh, one more thing is squishing. Squish that tape. The more air that comes out, the more surface area touches the tape, and it'll stick for a lot longer, many more years than if you don't squish. And we'll do in this direction. And there we go. on my little vertical or horizontal piece, the chunky one. And then I'm going to do these together. And I realized that I skipped this. I did it on purpose because it's art and you're allowed. And real spider webs aren't perfect either, even though they look it. And then we're at the end piece. This one, because it doesn't have a loop and it's wire, I love this stuff. I just found it in our storage area. I'm going to wrap it first because it's like a huge twist tie. And then I'm still going to secure it with tape because then it'll really last. Actually, let's use a long one and we'll really get it in there. And I kind of like the silver of the duct tape. Luckily, it lends itself to the look of water a little bit. So I thought about covering it with fabric to hide the duct tape, but I might just leave it because I kind of like it. Here. All right, and then we're going to get to another piece of wire because we ran out of that one. I found that it's much easier to cut the wire shorter than to try and use this whole thing at once. So I am going to unravel it and cut off a piece that's about 4 or 5 feet long is the most I feel like working with at a time. So if that information helps you, that's great. All right, and then to feed this one in, I'm going to go ahead and secure this really well. So if you're working with wire or string, you might want to wrap it a few times. Actually, I'm going to let myself have a longer end. So I'm wrapping it around the tubing and then also a little bit, I'm going to give myself a little bit more, around the tube and then around all this attachment right here as well. And I'm still going to secure that with duct tape because if you're using wire or not, one, it keeps it secure, but also it'll help if someone else is handling it and you tuck all those pieces in of wire and tape it, then nobody will cut themselves because it'll be covered with duct tape instead. You could do some form of this with bendy sticks. Elms, the ones everybody doesn't like because they're invasive, those are really bendy and they cure well. And in fact, here, let's get it over. This is made from elm, the heart in the middle. So you could even do the same kind of thing that I'm doing right now, but with elm and make yourself a woven hoop. So I have my end right here. I'm just going to let it wrap around these wires right here for security. And then we'll do a nice chunky long piece where this wire ends so I can really seal it in and make sure it's not going to accidentally try and come out. Squish, squish, squish. I did the whole thing. Wow. So here's our first row of making it look like a spider web. Oh, it's upside down. And then there's a heart in the middle. So we're moving on. We're going to decorate this inside shape, which is a heart that you can't tell yet, but you will when we're done. So I'm going to utilize these little white loops. And I'm taking some string that's already been cut, and I have several pieces at once so that it's a little bit thicker. I was going to try and show you, but they're so thin. Anyway, there's some nice pieces. All right, so I'm just going to loop it around. So I'm taking a loop and pulling both strings through it. And I'm pulling it tight. And then I'm going to attach it to these sticks I was telling you about from the elm. And I'm just going to wrap it nice and tight. And this is going to provide some beautiful colors as well as a little more structural support and keep it from getting too deteriorated in the weather. If you're a fan of Mod Podge, you could totally coat anything that is made of material or paper with it. I would recommend paper so much for this project, but you know, do what you want to do. And that'll help seal it against the weather. So there's a loop or a bend right here. I'm going to go ahead and use the string and tie it down. So now I'm putting it in between those wires and allowing that to be secure with this yarn stuff I'm using. Oh, it's going to be so beautiful. So just keeping it nice and tight, using your hands to help your fingers to keep your place as you wrap it. And again, not too long so that it's manageable. You don't want a piece that's like 10 feet long and longer than your arms. And actually now, because we have enough, I think we have just enough, I'm going to go up to this one because I want to attach it to all of them. I'm going to wrap it once, and then I'm going to bring it back to our wooden heart, and I'm just going to go ahead and tie this off, I think. Well, we got a few more wrappings. Yeah. So, I'm a big fan of a half hitch, which is just a very basic knot, and doing several of them. Miss Katie, my friend and lovely artist, helped me pre-attach. So some of these we already attached, so we would just be ready to go. I'm going to move that out of the way. And I'm going to get started and just keep wrapping. I am going to utilize the string and go ahead and wrap it around several of these things to go ahead and use the art to tie it on. So wrapping it around some of where the duct tape already was. I'm going to go ahead and lash it a little bit, which is where you make an X, and wrap it from a couple of different directions. And then it'll really help secure it as well as just be beautiful. So like this and wrap it. So I'm taking a little piece of cardboard with a slit and wrapping my excess string through it. Hello, I'm almost done. So I just have this little last bit to wrap up, and then I'm going to tie it off and I can show you the whole thing. Like I had said earlier, I'm using the string to go ahead and attach these loose wires. So this is just the perfect amount to do this last loop. And then I'm going to go ahead and go backwards just a little and then tie off this last bit. Again, with just a simple knot. And I like to do 2 of them. If you ever did friendship bracelets, this would be really easy. Ooh, that's a great idea. Maybe if you're a friendship bracelet maker, you can incorporate it. And then I'm going to take them and tie them in a knot like this, like a square knot. Because they are running out of room the other way. Alright, and then we can go look and decide if I want to leave all the extra strings or not. Aww, I love it! So what do you think? I don't know, but I think it came out pretty cool. So here is an example of a hoop you can make from stuff you found at your own house.